You want to do the intro?
No, you do it. I'm the boss every single day. You be the boss of this.
Are you already delegating to me?
I delegate
Awesome.
to you every day, honey.
Every day. Welcome to the Remotely Speaking Podcast. We're your hosts, Paul and Chastity Hawkins, owners of Sidekicks. So glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about how to delegate like a boss. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Not just a boss, a boss.
A boss. Perfect. Let's jump into it. Hello, Chastity.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Fantastic. Is there anything you need me to do today?
So, a small backstory for you guys. Before I hired my awesome assistant, Paul played assistant for me. He's a wonderful assistant, but it's not what he needs to be doing, which is a great segue into what we're going to talk about.
That's right.
As business owners.
Absolutely.
I know I'm the worst delegator ever to ever delegate, or to not delegate, because I am a control freak, a type A person, and I love to own things and to keep them tight to my chest and to make sure that they're done exactly the way that I would want them done every single time.
Yeah.
And so I tend to hold things that I shouldn't be holding on to as a business owner. And I've had to learn that lesson over the last couple of years to hand things over to the right people.
This episode's for you.
Yes. So I'm speaking from my soul today.
That's right.
To you guys about things you should not do because I did them and I about lost my mind. But I am living a much better life, and I'm able to talk to you today because I have an assistant who's doing all the other things right now while we do this.
Fantastic. Yes. And I have experienced all of this delegation and oversight from my lovely wife.
We played tug of war over my email inbox for a while.
Oh, yeah.
He forcibly took it from me.
I did. And I think what that means for our listeners this week is that we have great firsthand knowledge, one, on the struggles of delegating certain things when you're a business owner and you will have a certain standard and you want it done a certain way, and you're really concerned about that standard and success and what you can actually give up, right? That's one. And two, how do you do it, right? What do you identify as the things that you should give up? Should you give it up? Should you not give it up? Huh?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, and I think we all know when you start a business, you know you need to work on that business, right? You want to be above it and you want to be making strategic decisions, and you can't do that well if you're working in the trenches. And so I had definitely wrestled with that I wanted to be in the trenches. I'm a fantastic employee. I mean, I am a great employee.
Great boy.
But I don't need to be that now.
Yep.
There was a time for that, but that time is not now. So I think that we learned a lot of lessons that we can share.
And I before we get into it, I always try to find some common ground. And if you're listening to this, you might resonate with this. When you start a business, there is all the talk of work on your business, not in your business, which is true, but not at first.
Yeah.
And in fact, in my experience, quite the opposite. As owners, you need to be all in that thing for the first 12, 24, 36 months, learning every single thing about the business, controlling it, figuring out what works. You should be you should be an integral part of your business from the start. The challenge is once you have that base and structure set and a foundation and it's stable, how do you draw yourself out of it? That's the next step. And we've been through that change ourselves, right? We went full in, actively involved in all the parts of the business for 2 years, really, or 18 months or so. And then learned, okay, cool, we have it where we need. Now we need to draw ourselves out, but what do we do now, right?
But I think that being in the business at first makes us better bosses. We are better delegators because we understand what actually has to happen. There isn't a job in our companies that I haven't actually done at one point in time. And as an attorney in my past life, that if you haven't listened, go listen to my story. In past life, I started as literally a file clerk, then a legal secretary, then a paralegal, and then I was a lawyer. And so I understood how to delegate to those roles because I'd sat in those chairs. I'd done those jobs. And so I think that it's really important as a business owner. You can't just come in and be the boss on day one that does nothing and delegates everything. You really do need to learn what needs to happen because it's going to make you a better delegator when it's time to hand those things over. You understand what needs to happen and how to communicate what needs to happen and how it needs to be done. Just my 2 cents.
Absolutely. It's worth it.
But you don't need to stay there forever. And that's what this is about, is once you get to the point that things are somewhat on the rails, it's time to delegate some things and take some things off your plate.
It is. And I'll put everything in context of our business, some things we've learned. And, if I had to go back in time, things I would do a little bit differently. In Sidekicks, one of the positions we offer our clients is an executive assistant, remote executive. And for the listeners, I'll tell you right now, the number one thing you should get if you do not have that person is an executive assistant today. I cannot overstate how impactful that person can be for you when you find the right person. There is one particular book that I highly recommend. Maybe we'll put a link in there. Kristen, can you put the link in there? Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Kristen, by the way, is sitting over here and she's phenomenal. It is a book from Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time. It really does a great job of embodying exactly what we believe in as owners of Sidekicks. And one of the tenets he talks about is the very first hire you should make is your executive assistant, to offload 80% of the administrative items that you have that you shouldn't be doing. So that sounds great, but where do you start? And I find with a lot of our clients and us as well as business owners, they're like, yeah, that sounds cool. I want to do that. I don't know what to give up. It can be hard to figure out, what do you actually delegate, right? Because a couple things happen. One, you probably view everything as important. Two, you're the one doing it, and you might have the false notion that you're the only one who can do it. Three, it might be something you actually enjoy and are good at, but you really shouldn't be doing, right? Those are kind of the first three things we'll look at. And so if you put that into context, like, okay, what does that mean for us, right? I'll start with some examples. Maybe you can fill in the gaps. Sure. Every business is different, right? Some have some similarities, but what we've found in particular, the very first things that we need to get rid of, even though we're good at it, is your inbox.
Email. Yeah. Email is definitely something that I held on to because I felt like it was my connection to everything going on in my business. I felt like it was the pulse, and I actually used my inbox as my to-do list. And what I found out very quickly, with the help of my husband here, who was playing executive assistant, is that using my inbox as my to-do list derailed my day. I mean, I was responding all day rather than being proactive on my personal to-do list, the things that I actually needed to do to move the business forward. Yeah. And decisions that we needed to make weren't getting done because I was literally reacting to everyone else's fires all day. Or I would see a problem come through that I was just copied on, but then it would bring me down this rabbit hole of this issue that I didn't need to be dealing with because I have someone dealing with it. Yeah. But I would dive in there and try to help. When I really wasn't helping, all I was doing was having an extra hand in the pot that shouldn't have been in there. And so the peace of mind that I now have, knowing that I've delegated my inbox, and I definitely spent some time, I'm very particular. So I spent a week and a half really dialing in with our assistant, how I wanted my inbox. And there are people that I still want to talk to. I have my VIP list. That I still want to personally respond to, and that makes me feel better that I'm able to deal with the things that I want to deal with, and the rest is just out of sight, out of mind. And I know that it's getting done, and I don't have to be distracted. And I was a ball of stress because my inbox has a lot of things.
A lot of things. It's very big.
And so I was a ball of stress. Anytime I was doing anything other than sitting there replying to emails all day, I felt behind.
That's right.
Even though the things I was doing were much more important, when I see that number ticking up on my phone or my little email icon, it would stress me out. Sure. So I'm a better human sitting at this table today than I was even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. 3 weeks ago, because I did finally hand over my...
Hand it over. Let's talk about that. We're going to step through identifying what you should give up, right, as a business owner. Email, in my opinion, is the very first thing to do. It's really hard. It's super hard to give up control of that. But what we found to delegate like a boss with this particular item is setting parameters, setting expectations, creating templates. And then I would say frequently speaking with your executive, refine how you want to address emails that come in.
Yeah. A really cool way to delegate email that I did without really thinking about it is I just had my assistant spend a week. I was still emailing, but I had her spend a week reading my sent because I want her to know my tone and how I like people to be treated, how I respond. And then we went through and we categorized the types of things that came in my inbox, and we came up with good, solid templates for her that she customizes and personalizes so that we're not a robot responding, right? But we have a good set of templates where if it's this kind of email, this is the information I send.
That's right.
This is the typical response to something like this, or this is who it needs to go to. I mean, just the delegating from my inbox is awesome. And so I think that spending the time kind of to allow your assistant to learn your inbox and then allowing them to really dig in and then give feedback. And we have a good system down now. Yeah. And it was one we kind of happened upon accidentally, but it works really well.
And tell listeners about how you approach VIP emails. Like how does April know what you need to keep for yourself versus what she handles?
So this is something with delegating anything. We have a system, it's called ClickUp, but it's our CRM. Some of our agent clients use OneNote, and they use that Microsoft product to communicate. So if it could be a Google Doc or an email thread or a text exchange, whatever it is, I made a list. I just sat down and went through my mental list of these are the people that if they come across my inbox, I need to be that communicator. And I just put it in a document in ClickUp for her, along with all of the templates and all of the delegation practices of anything that I could possibly think of. And we just add to that document constantly as new things come through. We're adding to kind of creating an SOP.
There it is. Yep.
You were waiting for the buzzword.
That's right. There you hit it. No, go ahead.
Mr. Process.
No, I love it. What I witnessed you do with your executive is exactly what every business owner should do. Two things to recap we just mentioned. In the military, we call it a left seat, right seat ride, which means that, hey, I'm in the driver's seat as the business owner and you're going to watch. And you switch, it's a right seat, left seat ride. Now your assistant is sending the emails and you observe. And so it's really important, right, as a business owner, when we delegate the inbox to begin with, I strongly suggest you don't just delegate it on day one and leave. Not at all. In fact, it takes a few weeks because you want to invest your time to ensure your assistant knows exactly how you respond to things, the tone you use, and the criteria of here are the types of things that I want to handle versus you handle. The second thing is creating an SOP list. Absolutely. Like that's how you really delegate like a boss. You start creating the scenarios for everything. Hey, look, when this person emails, here's what you do. When I get an email about finances, this is what you do. If I get something from a team member, this is what you do. And you just create a running list.
Yeah. And this goes for delegating anything, but even after we were able to kind of not constantly communicate and the training part was over, we still have a running communication because things are going to come up. And so you can't hire someone to disappear. You have to still engage occasionally. And so we have a running text thread for the weird things that pop up like, hey, this is what I think I do with it, but what do you think? And so there's still some direction that has to happen. So you can't just, throw them in there on day one and expect them to do it perfectly.
That's right.
But you also, even once they are doing it almost perfectly, you still have to engage occasionally. You want to list more things that we should delegate? So obviously, email is the time suck.
Email is number one. Yeah, 100% email. And the calendar goes with that, right? Like setting appointments, making dinner reservations, all of that nature, like just hand it over. Let your assistant do that. That stuff does take time, and 30 seconds here, 2 minutes there adds up considerably over the day. Plus, your assistant can have a forward-looking view into the future for this week, next week, this month, and will learn how you like to structure your day. So the delegation like a pro part here is teaching your assistant, here's how I want my day to be. For example, I want all of my client calls to be on Wednesday and Thursday. Monday and Friday are administrative days. Tuesday, all I want to do is content. Please don't put anything on that day. I like to have date night with my wife on Fridays, and we have family game night on Thursdays, for example. And when you set those parameters, then your assistant knows, all right, cool. So when I get these calendar invites where I'm trying to make appointments, I already know the parameters to use, right? So spending just a little bit of time explaining how you want your life to be, even if it's not there yet, is a delegation like a boss.
Yeah. And we share our personal calendar, our personal crazy family Google calendar that's like a rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
And work calendars. And so when an appointment request comes through, our assistant checks both the personal and the business calendar to make sure it's not overlapping. And she knows between 2 o'clock and 3:30, we're picking up kids. Don't schedule anything then. Yeah. So it's one of those things that we set those expectations, but now we can just trust that it's happening. So we've got calendar, we've got inbox, we have what else are we delegating?
So it depends on your business, right? We have a lot of clients who have reports. So depending on what kind of business you run, you might have your weekly, biweekly, or monthly reports that you need to collate and put together and present. Those are great things to hand over. Yeah. For us, what I found is the 80%, I would say, of things that I need to get rid of are actually things that I'm good at. And it's usually revolves around like our CRM and systems, because I'm kind of a software guy. I like that. I'm a techie guy. But there's lots of things that we do kind of in real time with our clients and sidekicks across the nation that were on my plate. And what I found is that those were perfect items for me to train our executive to do. Even though I was good at it, again, they're 5-minute things, 2-minute things, 1-minute things that I don't need to do. It's actually not generating revenue or growth for the business, right, that someone else can do. So the delegation tip with this one is creating videos. Okay, if you've read Dan Martell's book by Becky Time, he brings up the concept of doing basically like video SOPs. And it is super effective if your system will allow it, right? So within our system, I can easily make a quick video and I show April like, hey, this is how you do the click, 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 click. This is how you do it. And one, it saves me countless hours on having to type it up. There's no confusion. I have something that's visual and audio, and she gets it and done. And it just goes right into our repository for our running list, right, of things to do. So using video to show your assistant, these are how I want you to do these things, like immeasurable. The fastest way to get all those little things off your plate.
Yeah. I think the figuring out what to delegate is different for everyone, like you said, depending on your business. So we have set a goal that this year, our main focus for our business is the time and space to communicate with customers and communicate with our remote workers and build relationships and travel to places and start a podcast and do more social media engagement. Those are the things that we were creating time and space for. And so what we had to do is we had to sit down and do a deep dive into what our day looked like and which of those things could be offloaded to others.
That's right.
And I think that is a great exercise for any business owner, is to really like sit down and decide, what is it that I want to do to move my business forward where I am right now? And that may change from year to year or month to month, or it may change.
Yeah.
And so I think that you just need to come up with, this is what I need to accomplish in my business. And that is what I want to focus my efforts on. And everything that doesn't move me in that direction needs to go elsewhere. And so it's not just the admin task. It could be things like payroll, taxes. Don't sit there with TurboTax and try to do it on your own as a business. Just hire someone, hire the experts. Posting on Instagram, I'm okay at it, but I don't know to be doing it, right? Like I can do the content and then hand it to them.
That's why Kristen's here.
She's right there.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Or, the email inbox to the assistant, the payroll to the accountant, things like that. So there are lots of things that can be delegated, not just to employees, but also outsourced.
Outsourcing, yeah, absolutely. Which again will be another episode on the podcast about how to effectively use outsourcing. All right, so You're 100% correct. I brought it before, but it has done a great job of framing it for me personally, and I think would do a good job of framing it for our listeners. The book 10X is easier than 2X. I know you haven't read it yet. I have. It kind of blew my brain a little bit, but it did a great job of framing like how you actually delegate, like what to delegate. And the concept with that is you look at your business, and if you were to 10X it, so basically like if you made $1 million a year, how could you make $10 million a year in 1 year? What would you need to do to make that happen? When you frame it like that, you can realize like, oh man, I shouldn't spend any of my time on these things, because in order for me to do that, I need to spend all of my time on these two things, right? And that's how you just mentioned, that's literally what we're doing. We're looking at, hey, we need to spend our time, more of our time, all of our time on relationships with our clients, because they're awesome partnerships, content, stuff like this, teaching and investing in our team. So basically teaching, mentoring our leaders internal to companies so it can be like a self-managing company. That's where we're spending our time. When we put in the context, it becomes very, very clear, hey man, like I probably shouldn't be doing payroll because that doesn't move my business along, right? Yeah. Who can do that for us?
Also, payroll's super easy to mess up. Don't do your own payroll.
Oh, there's a theme here.
You should hire an accountant.
Yes,
payroll team.
We know several. They're awesome. Yeah. If you go to our website, you'll see two partner links there for that very purpose. Like we just don't touch it. It's an easy button for us.
Hire the experts in the things that you may be decent at. You may be an accountant in a past life. I mean, I was an attorney. I could go draft every contract and every email and every communication that our company makes, but I shouldn't do that because there are other people who are perfectly capable of doing that kind of stuff. It may not be exactly the way I would have written it, but it's done, and it's done well, and it's done professionally. And so I think that in this delegation episode, that the first step is just to figure out what to delegate.
That's right.
And I think that we've given them lots of exercises, to figure out what are the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing as the business owner. They're not moving me and my business forward. Yeah. It's not, if I stay in these trenches, I cannot grow. I cannot scale my time or my efforts. And so spreading that load is going to make you a better business owner and a better employer. And, if you have a family, they might like to see you occasionally.
That's nice.
And so delegating is the way that you can do that.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And it's really interesting, like depending on where you are in your entrepreneurial or business journey, the answer is going to change, right? Yeah. So what we're discussing now is different than what we may have discussed a year ago. What I'm finding now, Cassidy, is that what we've been able to effectively delegate over to our executive assistant, get one today if you don't have one, absolutely go to our website, we'll help you out, it's allowing us to look up. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to grow and scale and move the business where you want to and get your time back if your head is down the hole. I can't even begin to describe the amount of breathing room that has occurred by us delegating these items over to our executive assistant, over to Kristen, who's helping us. There's no way we could do this stuff here, like zero way, because she could do it. It's amazing. And our accountant, for example, the amount of breathing room that I know personally I have right now, where I can actually sit and think and strategize. All right, cool. This is where we need to go as a business, as I want to train the team. I wouldn't be able to do that if I'm sitting there working on the day-to-day tasks all the time. But in short, like delegating like a boss can give you the chance to live your life like a boss.
Yeah. Recognizing your limitations and time. And so I think we've hammered home the what to delegate, figure out what you can delegate and do it. And so the next piece would be, find those people to delegate to. And I want to preface this part by saying sometimes you have to spend money to make money.
Absolutely.
Assistants cost money. You have to pay them well. And we have heard numerous times from customers and from friends and other business owners that like, oh man, I'm not making a ton, so I don't feel like I can hire an assistant yet.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine the time you're freeing up by hiring these people. You maybe take that risk, invest in yourself and your business by hiring these experts and these people that can take stuff off your plate, because it's going to allow you to grow and the money will follow.
Absolutely.
If your business is growing because you're able to move it forward and you're not buried in the stuff,
That's right.
then it's going to be worth the money spent. You will get that back in times who knows how many, you know. So I wanted to preface this part by saying you might have to invest a little bit in your business
Yeah, 100%.
to get the right people.
It is. I know it can be scary, right? Especially depending on how your revenue is. Like, oh man, don't want to spend money on an executive. Again, I can't overstate how impactful an executive assistant is for the business, and that it is, to me, 10, maybe even 100 times the value of the costs.
Mhm.
You can just simply break it down by number of hours. If you were spending, because you work 2 hours a day in email, at least, it's 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month. How much is 40 hours of your time worth to begin with? It's pretty standard to say like $100 an hour is kind of like our business standard for like, what is your time worth? $4,000 right off the bat, just on email, right? And so if you're like, hey, my time is worth $100 an hour, do you realize you're spending $4,000 of your time on email? What if I had an executive assistant that was $1,500?
Yeah.
Just for that. And so what we found personally is our executive, she's phenomenal at so many things. Her just doing your email
Worth it.
is already worth 4 times what the cost is.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. So I think definitely an executive assistant. I think we've made it very clear. Everyone needs one.
Yes.
Every business owner needs one. Heck, every mom needs one.
That's so true.
Moms need executive assistants.
Yes, they do.
Yes, or a wife. Every mom and wife needs a wife.
I just want one.
You only need one wife.
One wife's left. I don't need 2.
And then we've touched on the accounting. Don't do your own payroll. Don't try to do your own taxes. We have how many states on payroll? 8.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I had to set up payroll and follow the laws and the HR policies and all the things that need to happen behind that, we get paperwork every single day from random states. And I'm like, I don't know what to do this. Send it to the accounting team.
Make sure and send it.
And so the peace of mind that we get knowing all of that's just taken care of, and all we have to do is send them the mail we receive.
That's right.
And they take care of the rest, and then they let us know when we need to sign something. That was one of the very first hires we made when we started Sidekicks.
That's right.
And we pay them a fraction of the cost
Of the value that we get.
of the value that we get. And it's worth it, 100%.
And
It's
so,
easy button.
and let me hit on that for a second, like not diving into the accounting bit, but it's our use case.
Yeah.
Is when we talk about identifying what to delegate, we just did that. The next part is the who,
Yeah.
right? So we identified the first who is the executive, absolutely. The next who or who's, multiple who's, it just depends on what you're trying to delegate. For us, it was payroll and accounting. What we found is not only have we outsourced that work to our accountant, that accounting team almost acts like an extension of our remote worker team. And so what's phenomenal when you find the right who is, I don't just have an accountant. I have an accounting team. I have our financial advisor, CPA, and 2 people that work with accounting and payroll who handle all of it. So we have 4 people.
And HR.
And HR. 4 people. And so when tax out, there's literally no stress. They handle all of the income statements and all the balancing of the book, everything. And we just observe and review it.
Yeah.
And that's it. Super powerful, like massively powerful. I can't even imagine how much time and stress that I would be spending on that in our company if we didn't do that, right? So finding the who's the right is the next step. Finding the who can be challenging. It depends on what you're doing. We have a good answer for most of the who when we talk about delegating within the business. It's almost always the executive, and then accounting next, and then recruiting is another one, and then recruiting is another one, right? It can be very smart to outsource your recruiting efforts, and also social media, right? Depending on where you want to go with that.
Yeah.
those are kind of the 4 areas. Everything that's kind of inside the business, like that delegation, I would consider a different bucket, right? That is making sure that the team members are trained and you delegate to do that work. But as far as you as a business owner, you probably shouldn't be doing that work anyway. It's delegating the rest of the bucket.
Yeah. So, you find your assistant, you find your accounting team. If you need to recruit constantly, if you need to fill positions, definitely outsourcing the recruiting or hiring a company like ours that provides specific types of workers to take care of specific needs.
That's right.
But definitely finding those vendors or those outsourced companies that can help with some of that, hiring the expert in the social media and the marketing and content creation and all the things shouldn't be something you're just trying to do alone with your iPhone. That's worth spending the money on, especially if you're trying to grow. And then within the office, as you said, those are going to be different things, but finding the right people to fill those positions, just making sure that you're making solid hires, someone you trust, whether they're in an office, whether they're remote. We talked about that in one of our previous episodes about, why remote work shouldn't be this big scary thing, because you find the very best talent. And so if you're an insurance agent, and I say that because that's who most of our customer base is, that if you're sitting there and you're the salesperson in your agency, maybe finding a couple of really solid salespeople would be a good idea, because that's not maybe where you should be all the time, maybe sometimes, but you definitely want other people helping you grow. And so finding those solid salespeople are the people who are really great at the customer service, right? So that you don't have to be the only face of your business.
That's right.
So having the right people in place is huge.
Cool. So I'm going to recap where we are at the moment. We talk about delegating like a boss, right? One is identifying what to delegate. Step 1. Step 2 is find the who or who's to do it. And then the third one is, this is on you. This is how the magic happens, is teaching and follow up.
Yeah. The how to delegate.
The how to delegate.
Yeah.
So once you find these people to do this work, super important for you as a business owner to continuously invest your time in teaching, mentorship, etc., with the people you've delegated to. Because the stronger you make them and the clearer you make expectations and the clearer they understand those expectations, the more they're going to grow, the less you have to do, the more you're going to trust them. Right? So it takes some effort, right? You got to do your part. Find what you want to delegate, find someone to do it, and then teach them. Continue to teach them.
Yeah. I think the communication is the key there.
Yeah.
We've already touched on this a little bit, is you can't just hand stuff over and then magically expect them to know how to do it, how you want it done, and to do it the way that you would prefer. And so the communicating, it's obviously more frequently in the beginning. We have a 30-day cycle that we recommend.
That's right.
With our executive assistant program, that you spend 30 days, and really that 30 days, sure, you're accomplishing things, but really it's the get to know you stage. So I think relationships in the delegation relationship is important. You need to build trust.
100%.
If I did not trust the person I'm delegating to, I'm not going to feel good about things getting done, and I'm probably less likely to delegate in the future.
It takes an investment.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. The same has occurred with outsourcing to our accounting team, for example. Like, we spend a lot of time building a relationship with them and them understanding, like, this is how we're operating. We understand what they're doing. And now it's an easy blend. Like, anything that we charge with the business, they already know what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we recommend constant communication, but definitely at least once a week is a kind of what we do. We touch base with every single person out there on our team that we're delegating to, or even if they're outside of our team. Obviously, the accountant we don't need to talk to once a week, but we do check-ins with them. I mean, they send us statements and things, and so we do communicate, and we make the time for those things, because that small time investment removes the big time investment.
Gotcha.
All the other items.
Yeah, 100%. It's the analogy I like to say or use is, yes, you can do all the sales in your company, and yes, it costs money to hire a salesperson. And when you do that, your revenue dips for a minute. But if that salesperson takes over half of your sales calls you're doing, think of how much more money you make from that day forward, essentially, right? So and if you invest the time, how much more money can that salesperson make that you weren't doing? You basically replace yourself. And now you're back to the same amount of revenue you had before. and you're not doing the work, right? So investing time.
Yeah. And providing the people that you're delegating to all the tools, not just the training and taking the time to communicate and get to know them, but provide them the tools. If they need an extra monitor to be ultra productive, send them equipment. Make the SOPs and videos, walking them through and making them feel really, really supported, or assign them to a mentor. If it's someone in your office that you have this salesperson that's new and you have this super awesome salesperson that's been there for a while that knows the ropes, have a mentorship program. Maybe it's not you that's doing the training, but you're setting up a support system and all the tools in place for that person to do a great job, and you can be confident that it's going to be done the way you prefer it to be done, or the way that it should be. So I think communicating for sure, expectations, and then feedback is huge, don't you think?
100%. Yeah, I would say like the fourth final pillar of delegating like a boss is, and this is so much fun to say, is the feedback loop, right? So we have identify what you want to delegate, identify, find the who, train them, feedback loop follow-up. So one of the things we provide in our we call it the first 30 days that we send to all new clients who get an executive assistant through our program, is a document called the first 30 days. And the cornerstone of that is this thing we call the feedback loop, or it's called a retrospective. It's a software term. And essentially what that is regularly speaking with that person to discuss what went well over the last week, what did not go well, and what are we immediately going to improve. And when you get into that cycle, it provides a space for openness and trust. And you're going to find very rapidly, like, oh, this is what I meant. This is how she took it. Oh, okay, I need to change how I said that. Oh, these things went great. Let's continue those things. Oh, this thing didn't go well. Or what do we need to fix? Oh, okay, well, send this email to Paul to do instead, right? And then make that improvement. And when you get into that cycle of a feedback loop frequently, and at first, like every week you should do it, you're going to find you will rapidly improve, one. And then two, the person you're delegating to will get to know you really quickly and understand your expectations much more clearly. If you do that only once a month, you're missing out on 3 other feedback loops, right? So at the very beginning, spend every week with your executive or whomever you've delegated the stuff to, making sure they understood this is what your intent was.
Yeah. And I want to touch on the feedback loop should be two-sided.
Two-sided.
You, the employer, should definitely give feedback, but allow the employee or whomever it is that is in the conversation to give you feedback, how you can be better. Maybe you're not doing a great job of communicating, or you didn't quite give them all the information or the full picture of whatever it was that you're trying to delegate. And you're going to become a better delegator, a better boss, because you allow, and that open line of communication is going to build that trust. So it all just kind of feeds into the whole picture of the relationship. If you're this big scary boss that's super intimidating and you just get on the phone call and you knife hand at them everything they did wrong, and you don't allow that conversation to be a two-way street, then that trust relationship's not going to happen. And they're not going to want to do a great job for you because you're not allowing them to speak.
That's right.
Because we might think we're awesome and the greatest communicator ever, and everything we said was super duper clear, and why aren't they doing it the way I told them to? But you may not have, or they may not have received the message the way that you intended. And so I think having that two-way conversation and making it, we leave our egos at the door and we're going to just have an honest conversation here, and then we're going to figure out how to move forward after we have that feedback on the table. Will make for a much better working relationship.
100%. Remember the cornerstone here for our listeners as business owners is, what's the purpose of delegating? The purpose is to get your time back. Number one. Why do you need your time back? So that you can focus appropriately on growing and scaling your business or family time. So the end result or the end goal is you need your time back. So it's worth the investment for all the things you just talked about. And we've found massive success with our clients who do that when they spend extra time getting to know the person they delegated to, in this case, like an executive, and then that feedback loop constantly. Then in time, they've trained the person so well that they even get more time back. So you can basically like 10x your own relationship with that by just spending time. And it's hard, but just if you delegate To me, if you find time every week to do that, it'll pay massive dividends. All right, so now you know how to delegate like a mouse. We talked about identifying what to delegate, who to delegate it to, teaching that person in the feedback loop. Hope this has been super helpful. Coming up in our next episode, we're going to talk about how to build trust with your remote team. You can't miss it. It's going to be awesome. So if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Get notifications when we have new episodes. We'll talk to you soon.
See you then.